welcome everybody. I hope you're here for the session from DevOps for data to DataOps. If not, you're in the wrong room, but please stay seated for this flight with us. First, a little introduction to my co-pilot. Everyone is talking about co-pilot. I have my in-person co-pilot. His name is Vincent Gores. He's my colleague working at Info Support. My name, Niels Legley, also working at Info Support as a data architect and working with organization to improve their data maturity with DataOps. And we're going to talk about that. But first of all, we've brought Dutch stroopwafels with us, and we always enjoy reading the feedback. So please fill in the form afterwards to help us improve our presentation skills, but also our slide deck, so we can improve for our next session. So and afterwards, be sure to pass by the stroopwafels just as a snack before we go to the party this afternoon. So, what do we love? We love data. Do you love data? Okay, perfect. We love sharing knowledge. We love building data-savvy organization. And personally, I love Lego. So brick by brick is an acronym I always use in the presentations. So it will come by in this presentation as well. And I also used another co-pilot just to get the icebreaker. And I asked co-pilot GPT-4 about what would be a good icebreaker. But it missed context. So I added the context on the left just to improve it. And that's what we want to do with you guys. We want to give some context around DataOps, and that can help you have your conversations within your organization to improve DataOps within your company. But with a show of hands, questions?
How many of you have implemented DevOps for data?
Good.
Quite a few.
Hands.
Okay. That's nice. How many of you are actively working on data governance?
Also a few, but a
almost
less more.
Half, yeah. And how many of you are building advanced data testing and data quality monitoring capabilities?
Less
also quite some, but it was a downwards trend.
So we're going to make a few stops during this session. So we're going to use a helicopter flight, and we're going to stop with DevOps database, DevOps and DataOps, and then fly through the next destinations, DataOps testing and governance, and make a stop at roadmap to DataOps. What steps can you do to improve DataOps within your organization? And then we'll wrap up for the Dutch stroopwafels.
Yes. Thank you. So, yeah, let's talk about the relation between DevOps, database DevOps, and DataOps. And to give a little bit of context, Info Support, where we are both from, is mainly a software development house. So DevOps is something we do every day for years and years and years. However, in our data teams that we also do have, we saw that the DevOps mentality didn't quite land as much. And yeah, we started wondering why. And then we found out about database DevOps, how it differs from DevOps, and then one step beyond to DataOps. So let's talk about the theory. Of course, DevOps, DataOps, all the opses are closely related. You could see DevOps as maybe the father of DataOps. A lot of you guys already had a show of hands. We do database DevOps. So I think I can go past this part quite quickly, just to have a shared understanding about DevOps. It's about sharing responsibility, if possible, between the development team and the operations team, especially when you're working on a large product. You want those. You don't want two separate teams. You want them working together to prevent solutions where the DevOps teams are like, yeah, we finished all our features. They throw it to the other guys, and then it's their problem, and nothing works in production. And we have all this drama. That's why you want to put them together, have a shared responsibility, and then you want to automate. You want to automate everything, especially your deployments. You want to monitor every deployment and what's going on. And you want to have automated testing to make sure that everything you change won't break something else. And those tests need to be automated, of course, as well. What this will achieve is a shortened release cycle, which means you have more feedback, and more feedback means more value for your customer, which prevents those silly cases where at the end of the project, you build something the customer actually didn't need. Shorter feedback cycle will have prevent these cases, and you have more value. That's what we all want, of course, in any case. So what we see in practice, we automate everything for our building pipelines. We use Git. We have CI/CD in place. We can release multiple times a day. Usually you see a development environment, testing, acceptance, and production environment. And the dream is, of course, to be able to release to production multiple times a day. It's not feasible in all cases, but it would be if you are far enough along with your automated testing, with your deployments, you could. Some teams of ours actually manage. And of course, you have your unit testing and maybe also your spec flow testing in place to make sure you don't break anything by accident. Then when we move on to data projects, what we see sometimes in our own teams, mainly at our customers, we have problems that aren't solved yet. We see that changes are made on databases, on stored procedures in production. My previous client really did this. I needed a few changes. And he was like, oh yeah, I have that fixed tomorrow. And then he did it right on production. No testing at all. And by some miracle, it didn't break anything. But that's not what we want, of course. We should have safeguards in place. We should have tests in place. And what we also see a lot of times is that a lot of ETLing is like a one-time solution for the data scientist that wants to answer some question. They create some ETL solution and then it never gets used again, but it does get built time after time after time after time. Another thing, this is how I did not want to do my master thesis, did it in the end anyway. We need to have proper versioning in place to make sure we know what we are actually doing. I see you laughing, maybe, I hope it's out of recognition. So yeah, then we go to database DevOps. We can solve these problems I just mentioned by applying these concepts of DevOps to databases. And then we have database DevOps. We can use solutions like Azure DevOps. We start developing of databases, of stored procedures, of whatever you're working on through Git. So we have version control in place. We can automate our deployment and we can test those deployments so we don't break anything we weren't supposed to break. But with databases, there's a bit more in play. It's not only versioning of your solutions, it's also versioning of your data. Reuse is maybe a bit different as well. With software development, it's mostly reuse within your own solution, within your own project. But within an organization that uses a lot of data, it's also reuse for other people working on their separate projects. You want to reuse those ETL pipelines you have built and don't build them all the time for different projects which use similar or the same data.
Modularity, modularity, modularity. Here.
Exactly. Yeah, and there's also a bit of a difference for tooling. Databases require different challenges than regular software development. So for some problems, you need specialized tooling to actually be able to apply those DevOps principles to data. Then we want to take this one step further. Let me see how I'm doing with the time. Oh, this is going very well. What is DataOps? We think DataOps goes beyond database DevOps. We're going to include data quality. We're going to monitor our solutions. We're going to monitor what goes through our solutions. And we'll get back to that later in this presentation. It's also a cultural change. Within DevOps, it's more, you could do it quite narrow. With DataOps, it's broader. Your whole organization needs to be on board. It's about testing, more testing. We'll get to back to that later. And maybe the most important one of all, it's about governance. So when we look at database ops, database DevOps and DataOps, we see similar goals. We want to work agile. We want to reduce cycle time. We want to have more business value. All the classic things. We want to do more fun things. We want this by automating, by testing, reusing, and we want to reduce the accidental complication we create by making mistakes, not being able to look in the future, all those fun things. So the goals are quite similar. However, database DevOps, DevOps and DataOps differ in the product you have. With DataOps, you talk about data, and that's a mutating object. It changes all the times, while software development is more of a static object. The changes there are because you did something, not because someone else did something, and that's a huge difference. Your data is fluid. That's what breaks your solution sometimes, because the data changes and you didn't account for that. And with software development, we only have these pesky business users that want to have different things all the time, which we also have with data, of course, but then the data changes all the time also, which makes it a lot more complex. You have more metrics, and you don't only have release pipelines as with software development, but with DataOps, you are concerned with data pipelines and release pipelines, both which require a different kind of attention. And culture is a really important difference as well between DataOps and DevOps. Where we see in DevOps, you can have a large organization and you could have a single working DevOps team within that organization. Might be not optimal, but it could work just fine. However, with DataOps, having your whole organization on board is essential. You could work as a single DataOps team, but when your data quality is a mess, is trash, is rubbish, as the British say, you won't be able to go fast or create more business value. You can have all the CI/CD in place you want, but you will still have trouble creating value. That's why you need to have a broad data culture within the organization, organization-wide, and that includes data governance, of course. That's the tool which you use to get there. So we add testing, DevOps, and governance, and then we have our miracle DataOps, which we will see fast delivery through optimization. We use statistics, monitoring, and we see a culture change within the organization.
But why?
But why? Exactly, that's the question. This is what it all breaks down to. What you want to achieve with DataOps. What we see in green are the new features we create every day, and on the left is the current situation. So yeah, we're not doing that much feature creation. We're doing a little bit on process improvement every day, but in the end, a lot of the work we do is bug fixing. Putting out fires because something changed and we don't know what, problem solving, and I hope it's not the case with you guys this bad, but it could be. It is this case at some companies, data engineers are more like firemen, the fire brigade, putting down fires all the time. And what we want to achieve through reuse, through proper governance, we know what the data we touch entails, we know what we need, so we can spend actually more time at creating new features and retrieving additional data. However, this is an investment. We won't get there for free. You need to start spending more time on process improvement. However, if you do this and if you implement, does this work? Yeah, it actually works. Perfect. Proper testing, you will see that this prevents a lot of bug fixing, and you'll have spent a lot less time putting out the fires, which leaves more time for the fun stuff, creating value and adding more features. But how?
And taking out fire is fun. Feels good. The company is happy. But if you only keep putting on fires and making sure they're not destroying the company, there's not so much fun. So, thank you, Vincent. Let's fly to our next stop about DataOps testing. And what can we do about it? And how can we do that? And a little bit about governance. So we're not going to dive into the technical tooling of testing, but we're going to take a look at what kind of tests are there and which should we know of and at least implement at the first pilot. And we like quotes, and this one is from my colleague. Trust is nice, testing is better. And he also likes the fires, but still implement proper testing. So if you take one thing away of this session, besides the stroopwafels, this is the slide you want to keep in mind. Because what we see in practice is that companies are building tests, but most of the time they're testing one thing, and that's the value pipeline. But we cannot underestimate that there are two differences. We've got innovation pipeline testing. That's when the data is fixed and the code is changing. For instance, the data pipeline, you made some changes and you need to test that. When we talk about that kind of changes, it's innovation pipeline testing.
Yeah, which is the main one for us when we're talking about software development. Software development is only innovation pipeline.
Yeah. And the other one is the value pipeline testing. That's something we see often with data solutions, because who doesn't have data quality checks in their production environment? It was a oh, there's one? Okay, you've got fires, man. Take them out. But that's the data that's flowing through your data pipelines at night, during the day, depending on how real time or near real time your data is. And that's what we are used to see the quality and monitoring. And we forget from the data perspective the innovation pipeline. We need both. So another perspective on the same topic. So we've got a data stream of sources going through the pipelines from data to production, creating value, if it's of proper quality. Else, shit in is shit out. And especially with the power tools of Power BI, Fabric, you can handle a lot of shit, but it's on a ventilator, so it's spinning around, and you're not gonna enjoy that. So be sure to proper quality control. And the other side is we've got an idea of new implementations. So we go from idea, we develop something, we test it, and then we put it in production. And then that flow of testing of your data pipeline has been done. But don't forget, for the same flow of data, something changed. And you also need to incorporate new tests for that flow as well. So next time, testing, ask the question, innovation pipeline or value pipeline testing. So big picture, not going to dive into, but a logical architecture. I'm an architect, so I love drawing in PowerPoint. On PowerPoint, it always works. So here it works. And I just wanted to point out some aspects of the testing. So I think you're all familiar with the ingestion, ETL, ELT, depends on the use case which you would prefer. But there we do ingestion testing. When we transform the data, we do transformation testing. And quality testing could be put everywhere, but in this case, my PowerPoint, I wouldn't scatter it around, so I put it there, but there are other places where we also want to do quality testing. So a few examples of these tests. For the ingestion test, frequency. If we know a source delivers on a quarterly basis or a daily basis, and we're not receiving any, then there's something wrong. We can test that. Hopefully you guys have a data contract, a data delivery agreement, an interface definition about the data that's being imported or output of your platform. And you can test the data coming in, going out with that data delivery agreement. Some hard checks of data types, more advanced, do statistical distribution of your sources. So when data flows in, you can do statistical distribution on the data flows. So if you've got 1 million a day, if you've got 10 million the next day, that's a bit of a difference. So we might want to take a look at that. Instead of the canary test in production, just waiting to someone to chirp, or in the canary test, the bird dies. So, and also test the data coming in. A lot of sessions about security and privacy and data loss preventions seen today is validate the data coming in, if it's privacy related data, and if you want that in your data product or not. If not, flag it. Transformation tests, a bunch. but a few examples: do the data type testing. If you do transformations of the data type, are you creating nil values due to a try cast or something else? You need to validate if your transformation is done during the night in a correct manner. Also advise you to do the row count. How many updates, how many deletes of the data do you have, and do you see a pattern in the distribution of that data that might indicate a problem or a new change in business that you can incorporate?
Yeah, funny thing about those transformation tests is that you can do them both on the value pipeline and the innovation pipeline. So make sure your pipeline at the build performs as you expect, but also make sure it still performs as you want it to perform when live data is going through it.
Yeah. And some data quality examples, but I think you're all aware of what to test there. And don't forget nowadays data drift within your platform, and also test your metadata if your metadata changes. And yeah, that's a big problem nowadays with generation of your metadata and your automation pipelines, that it's not manual controlled. Small example from practice.
Yeah, this is my favorite data set from when I still sold ice cream. Not too long ago. And this is what actually got me into data and data science. I had to, I was responsible for the inventory, so I had to make sure there was enough ice cream all the time, and I had no idea what I was doing, which resulted in us not having ice cream on a very sunny day, and that's not what you want, of course, in an ice cream shop. So I decided I have the data. I have a lot of numbers on sales, which you see on the left. And weather data is something that's publicly available. Um, and yeah, it's also quite accurate. And of course, we all can imagine that ice cream sales are closely related to some factors about the weather. Makes sense, right? Okay, I'm gonna
Yeah,
click
but
through this one real
in,
quick.
in Excel, Vincent, in Excel.
Yeah, I did it in Excel. I was still a newbie, a freshman, call it what you want. I messed around. If I would have known what we are telling you guys today, this would have been so much easier. But I had to find out the hard way. My manager once told me everybody deserves to make their own mistakes. I did that with this data set many times. But a few funny things you see on data quality. Sometimes different spellings with the capital, different date formats, missing data, data drift. This is a way too high number compared to the others. This one I could explain because it was the Tour de France or something in Utrecht, which made it a really busy day. Yeah, completeness, missing data. This is 1,000 plus 2,000 does not equal 1,000, so something went wrong. Which includes business rules. Yeah, and this was another funny one. We had an amount of rain of -1, and this is actually in the Dutch Meteorological Institute dataset. I didn't make this one up. It's there. I don't know why. But a lot of these things reached totally messed up everything I tried to do with it. So I had to do a lot of data cleaning by hand in Excel. I hate myself. But this was a long time ago. But in the end, I was able to predict my sales, which led to me being able to buy the right amount of ice cream. Yeah, just
Yeah.
a fun use case.
And I think everyone can imagine some data problems they have within their organization. Or
Yeah.
are there people in the room that didn't have a report that totally screwed up due to incorrect input? No hands? Okay, so everybody can
One thing I want
relate.
to add still, business rules in this case for this data set are very obvious, but do include the business people when you're doing the data quality test. Don't try to make them up yourself. You'll probably make some mistakes. Include the business in those data quality rules. And that's why we said it's not just the data team that has to embrace data ops, it's the whole organization that has to embrace data ops because you need them. You need the business. You need the entirety of the organization to help you to help them.
Yeah, especially if there are less sales, the business needs to tell
Yeah,
you if it's
exactly.
less sales or not. Maybe it was closed that day. You
Maybe.
don't know.
Maybe the coffee machine broke down.
Coffee machine broke down. That would be hell for me on a Monday. But another story. Another important topic is metadata, and especially with the ability to generate our data pipelines or creating our notebooks with metadata-driven pipelines. It's getting more and more important to have that available in good quality. And you want to catalog your metadata of your sources, but also of your data products that you're creating yourself. You want to describe what you're building, what's the purpose, what's the SLA of the data, how many times is this refreshed, what's the quality of the data. So you want to monitor that. And that also means you need to register your data sources centrally, or at least platform centrally, because more and more governance is decentralized, but you need to register it and monitor it, and preferably have an owner which you can talk to, so not a system, but a real person that you can sit next to and say, you're doing it wrong, your data quality is not of the proper quality. Let's improve that together. You also want your data lineage of what happens to your data. And I can speak of my own experience that when we deliver a data product, you deliver your first report, you're proud, you're presenting it, hopefully telling a story about your data, and the first person in the room says that number is incorrect. And you're like, I'm not gonna swear today, but not happy because you're proud building the data product, but where does this problem really come from? And you need to have your data lineage, all your transformations. And personally, I'll start with the report, go directly to the source, personal experience, see if it's in the source, if it's correct, and if not, go into the middle and then left, right, chop it in little pieces and find out where the problem is. And most of the time, it's in the source of the system and somebody mistyped something. So be sure to have your data lineage in place and preferably automate. Automated testing, we said it already, testing. Manual testing is also testing, but it's not very fun to do the entire time. So try to automate it as much as possible. And more tooling comes available about the testing of data. So make sure that you're up to speed with the new tooling for that. And responsibility of the data products and the owner of the data is very important as well to register. And that's really the case when you want to sit next to somebody and say, we need to improve this data quality. And who's the person that needs to sit next to you? And don't forget usage insights of your data product. Who checks how many times the report he or she built is used? Few hands? Perfect. Perfect. Keep that doing. And if you're not doing that right now, Monday, when you're back in the office, start monitoring, because if it's not used, time for a cleanup. Because you need to test it, you need to monitor it, it takes time, takes effort, and if it's not used, it's a waste of effort. Don't destroy the report or something right away. Take it offline, leave it on the shelf for a few weeks, months, depends on the report. And then if somebody knocks on your door, says, where's my report? I'm really needing it this quarter. Saying it out of own experience. So save it on the shelf for a certain period of time. And if not, destroy it, remove it, archive it, and make sure to update your metadata, etc. as well. And governance, 3 times the charm. So you're jinxed. And hopefully you're going to do more and more with governance. And from personal experience is, what do you need in an organization to get governance in place? Incentive. You need incentive for organization or a person to do the job and really take a look at what does it take to be an owner of the data. How can you support the person being an owner of the data instead of just putting a sticker on it, you're the owner, but how can you support them, and what's in it for them to have good data quality and governance of that data. So really incentivize the governance for that. And for that, there are certain roles and responsibilities. I think the bingo card is on the slide. So chief data officer, data owner, data flight steward, because we're in a flight team, a report owner, report builder. Describe those roles. What are the responsibilities? What are the actions? What are the results of these roles? And really take HR with you when somebody is appointed this responsibility. And search for the people who has a passion for this and passion for data, and see how they can take the role within the organization. Else it's going to be a hard job to get the entire organization with you. And we say the entire organization, that's not saying the entire organization needs to be in it from the start. No, it starts with a happy few. That's enough to get a movement. So search for the people, for the happy movement that makes the entire organization dance eventually. And also really useful is the center of excellence. Have a group where they produce the standards, the procedures, and which you can go to when there are questions. And you've got a center of excellence for Power BI, you've got a center of excellence for governance. You can have multiple center of excellences, but have a group where you can knock on the door and really talk to each other and learn from each other, and you know where to go. So building a factory is 100 times as hard as building a car. Normally we're building a data pipeline. That's one car. But nowadays we're building an entire factory of metadata. That's really hard to do, and especially if you want to do it correctly, and it's not going to succeed at once. So prepare for failure or prepare for learning. Failure is negative, but if you compare it, it's learning. So prepare for learning and do the hard work, really getting the value out of it. So that makes us to the next stop with our flight. And that's going to give you a little roadmap that helps us in getting data ops at an organization more in control.
Yes, I assume we're all convinced we want to have data ops within our organizations. We want to have add more value and have all these magical things and live in our own data utopia. So let's go. How to start? We have created a roadmap. The roadmap to implement data ops, and it consists of 5 easy steps. And
Why
of course,
5?
why 5?
It fits on one hand. Really.
Really?
Easy to remember.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, first step is scan. We want to know where we are, and we want to know where we are going. And this is broad, this is small, it is all at the same time. You do want to know the gap to where you are, so you first need to decide where you are, but not only your data team, also your department, also your organization, also other departments. It's all on a whole spectrum of different levels. You want to know where you are, and you want to know where you're going. This is one we like to use. There are many other data-driven data ops maturity models out there. I'm not going to say which one to use. It depends. It's the thing we like to say as consultants. But what I do want to mention is that at level 5, prescribe, we can do everything with our data. It's our main source of competitive advantage. That's something you will probably hear a lot of managers say, yeah, we want to be able to prescribe, but it's probably not something they actually need. It's the same thing I heard in another session about governance, I think, about how all managers want to have streaming data when they don't really need streaming data. It's the same thing here, same principle. Be critical on where you want to go, know where you are, and then you can set out a path.
Yeah, and do that at a team level, department level, organization level.
Yeah.
And it might differ which maturity one person in the team says it has than the other team member. But that doesn't matter. It's about the conversation you have and what you want to improve and where you want to grow and where you want to go.
It's with the data team, the business team, the management team.
Yeah, all of them.
Yeah.
So that costs time and effort, and not everyone would like to start. So look for the teams that are passionate about this. A very important step that's often forgotten. That's a change, and with the change comes the responsibility to educate. And that's education of the people. We mentioned the roles. So what's your role? What are the responsibilities? What are the actions you have with that role? You need to educate them. You can train them, you can provide guidance, guidance via a power report or a flow about the activities that needs to be done. But don't forget to educate the people. And it's a cultural change, so it's not going to happen overnight. I always hope so, but you wake up the next morning, it isn't. But it takes time. And you're also probably going to hit some processes that are not optimal at this moment. And if you change processes in a business, it's not always easy. So that takes time as well. And of course, the technology is continuously evolving. Talking about Microsoft Fabric all day and the other days, and going to talk about it probably next week as well with another conference coming. But don't focus on technology only. Don't focus on process only. Don't focus on people only, but combine it. You really need the entire bunch to get the change ready. And love the animation. Took me some time, so I'm very proud of the animation. Sorry, took me off a bit. So thank you. So roles and responsibility is a step. When you've done the education of what's needed for your role and responsibility, demonstrate it. Help the team, help the person demonstrate the result. So you build trust, trust of your data, trust of your change, trust of the process, and then continue with testing, because you need to test, test, and test, and continuously CI/CD. So keep track of your changes, because if something breaks, you want to revert back to your last version, else you lose trust, and then you break the cycle. You don't want to break the cycle. And you build on this step at a time, step at a time. And that's changing culture. Slowly, but steady, also with a flight, slowly and steady. And that's not only from a business perspective, but also from IT and management. Incorporate the entire bunch that's hit by the process or hit by the result. And don't forget to present your story at the correct level. So do a presentation of your showcase to management, the department, and show them with passion what you've done and what's the value of what is done. Pilot.
Yeah. I talked about how it's so important to get the whole organization on board, and that's an organizational-wide thing. However, you need to start small. Yeah, this might be a bit contradictory. We want to look for a pilot project, a small project that could generate high impact, and we want to start applying those DataOps principles to this project. And a lot of you guys are already doing database DevOps, so we can discard the first step. However, for the other guys that don't, start with implementing your basic CI/CD principles. Those are really a hard requirement for starting with DataOps. Without database DevOps, you won't get there. So that's the first step. Get there, have your CI/CD, use version control, make sure you can deploy anytime, anywhere. Yeah, and then we go on to testing. Of course, it's also part of database DevOps, but we're gonna broaden our view, and we're gonna start creating tests for the value and innovation pipelines, and also start getting the business people on board. I myself am also a business analyst. At my current project, I was starting small by sneaking in those tests in my user stories, because I had a lot of trouble convincing the product owner, because he was like, "Oh, but it's going to cost extra development time, and it's going to be awful." And
The short-term thought.
yeah, short-term thinking. Sneaked in some tests anyway. Devs liked it. Devs built it, and already the first time we had to ingest data, they've proven their worth, and we were able to prevent a lot of rubbish from entering our database, which would have caused problems along the road. When building every test, think about how is this going to prevent me from having to put out fires in the long run? If maybe the house can burn down and it doesn't matter, maybe you shouldn't build a test for that, or maybe later, but start with the high impact tests that are actually going to prevent you from having to put out fires. And of course, then you start improving data quality, preferably at the source. So yeah, when it's good at the source, those tests I wouldn't say are useless, but because trust is nice, testing is better. But you want to prevent at the start of the keten of the, what's the word in English? Chain. To prevent errors from entering the chain. And then showcase, get the organization involved. I went to my product owner and was like, see, I told you so, I was right, and now I can prove it. I did it in a bit more friendly way, but this was the gist of it, and it worked. He was allowing me to do this with other data ingestion things as well. So yeah, that was a really nice thing to see it actually work on such a small scale. And get everyone involved. I already mentioned it with data quality. Get functional people involved, get business people involved, help them, make them help you, help them.
Nice one. So when you've got your first pilot, you're not finished. You need your next pilot and another one, another one. But don't forget to productize. Data mesh, several presentations during this event already, and a data product. So you need to productize your solution. And when I mean productize, you need to take in consideration your policies and procedures, but also your security and privacy, which might not be entirely infused in the pilot at first. But if your pilot's finished, don't forget to infuse the security, the infrastructure testing, the software testing, and the data testing as well. And when it's in production, you need to monitor it, and you also provide support. When there's questions, changes, then you need to implement that as well. So after your pilot, you're not finished, you also need to do this as well. And with that, hopefully more and more small projects start up and you build your entire organization to the DataOps organization. You want to infuse automation as well. You want to automate as much as possibly. Never say it. But what we can do with automation is we can do profiling of your data with just poking into the data pipelines, seeing what data comes by, and profile your data, but also tag your data as it goes by. So you can map it to existing data sets. If a product pops up and you recognize a product name because you already had another entity as a product, you can automatically tag it, this is product data, and you can incorporate that as well. So you can do a lot of automation on top of your data pipelines as well. So you want to detect changes as soon as possible in the chain, as Vincent just mentioned, because if it's rippling down, it's increasing in impact. So detect anomalies as soon as possible, notification, alerting, implement that as well. And do that on a smart way. Sounds silly, but use AI as well. You can do a lot of categorization of your data, check for PII data. More and more tools are infused with AI, especially, I can't name one tool that's not infused with AI, or they say it's infused with AI, but infuse your data products with AI to incorporate the productivity and the quality. And then keep on going. Grow, and don't forget, you need all those steps again. Maybe a little bit less of the scanning, but the education, the piloting, and the productizing, you need to keep doing that as you grow. And remember, life's a marathon, not a sprint. So that's taking us to the next step, challenges of DataOps. Thank you, Copilot, for this image. The challenge of DataOps might be a bit obvious after this talk, but still want to name them. is cultural shift, because culture and processes are hard to change, and that will take time, and it will make you sweat along the way to get change there. So always remember why you do it, and that's to improve the value and less problems with your data quality. Also, technical integration. Most of the time it's an IT department that's going to fix the stuff, but that's the technical fixes. You need the other parts as well. And the skill set and training, that's also an investment. So you need management buy-in to get the skill set and the training at the right place, at the right time, at the right person. So what are 5 common mistakes? Spend too little time in education, and especially on the roles and responsibilities. It's easy to place the sticker on you're the data owner or you're the report builder, but what are my responsibilities in that role? Think deployments is the last step? No. With data products, deployments is the start of the process, because then you've got it in production and your data is flowing through. So you need to monitor the data quality and the data pipelines as well. Don't focus only on the tool. So say we've got a problem, oh, we're gonna put Fabric on it and it's all solved. No, that's not the solution. It's a part of the solution, or it might be part of the solution, but it's not only a technical challenge, it's an organization challenge as well. Stopping DataOps at the border of the data team. So the data is doing the DataOps. No, we need the business. They know the data quality. They know they're responsible for the data, so they need to be incorporated as well. And in your pilot, you do the basic metrics and quality aspect, but don't stop there. Continue on improving and adding new tests and new data quality metrics as long as you go. So what are the critical success factors? You flip the other one, you should see some of them back here. Acknowledge of the cultural change and the management buy-in. You don't need the entire management team. You only need one sponsor and then grow. Communication, collaboration, and governance. And invest in a platform and technology, because without that, you can have a lot of talks, but you need the results in the technology as well. And especially modularization, building blocks of data products, certain pipelines you can reuse, and you can automate and test individually and reuse and automate where possible. And yeah, of course, here as well, infuse it with AI and use it in the proper way to improve your processes.
Yeah, dream big, start small, but most of all start. It's a problem that many of us face, maybe also in our personal lives. We really have to, as data people, have to facilitate the rest of the organization to help them help you. No, make them help you help them. Oh, it's a tongue breaker. But it's really about we have to facilitate this, the start of this process, get it going. So yeah, that concludes our session, gets us to the wrap up. We have 1.5 minutes left. Small wrap up.
Should be
Some
feasible.
questions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
why do we do it? Scalability and agility. We want to have operational efficiency, but most of all, we want actionable insights. We want data that can set people into action to create more and more value. So, wrap up, agile. It's a wrong screenshot. It's testing, DevOps, and governance. We changed it. Bit last minute, but I always love to change the day of the presentation some of my slides to keep me on toe. This is why we want to do it. We want new features that grow, not the bugs that grow.
Every policy test, everything you do should
Have this
go
in
back
mind.
to that single picture.
And as I told you, if you take something away, it's innovation pipeline versus value pipeline, and validate what you're testing at what moment. And create yourself your own roadmap or use this roadmap, but make the steps visible for the organizations, what's going to happen, when is what going to happen, and how we're going to change. So thank you for flying with us. You passed the pre-flight check with us, and please fill in our feedback form and grab a stroopwafel on your way out, getting ready for the party with more flights. Thank you.
Thank you.
If there are any questions, feel free to stop by. If you just want a stroopwafel, come by.